Hello, this is Joseph Zodel. There is some talk about putting the Ten Commandments on display in courtrooms, schools, and other public buildings on the grounds that it is the foundation of Western law and hence U.S. law. We will mostly, but not entirely, disprove this. First, we do have other foundations: the Code of Hammurabi, the Justinian Code, the 12 Tables of Law from Rome. Within the Ten Commandments, things having to do with the law of the land are: you shall not kill, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness. So that's three that would have something to do with what was going on in seeking justice in a U.S. courtroom. We also have the sixth commandment: you shall not commit adultery. That has something to do with civil law, but it's rarely prosecuted. In Arizona, the only person who can bring a charge against the alleged adulterer is the aggrieved spouse. The maximum penalty is 30 days in jail. It is rarely enforced as a criminal prosecution. Nationwide, it is the grounds for many divorces. If we did truly enforce such laws, how many prisons do we have to build to hold all the convicted adulterers? So it will probably not be enforced seriously in the civil law. Three are purely religious beliefs. I am the Lord your God, you shall not have strange gods before me. Hindus would not agree with that, as they believe in many gods. Also, it is not something that atheists or agnostics would believe in. So, should that be part of the civil law? Second, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. God goes by many different names. Should we make it illegal to take the name of the Lord in vain with all these different names involved? How many prisons do we then have to build? And is that something that should be the concern of the law? Some people do feel that using the name of God in vain is not in good taste. Some people do not have a concern about it. So there's no agreement on this if we did try to pursue it. But it doesn't seem to be something that the civil law should be concerned with. The third is to remember to keep holy the Lord's Day. Muslims observe the Lord's Day on Friday, Jews on Saturday, and most Christians on Sunday. An exception is the Worldwide Church of God, which is a Christian church, but does observe the Sabbath on Saturday. So we don't have any agreement on what the Lord's Day is in our diverse society. And what does it mean to keep holy? Does it mean to not sin? Does it mean to go to religious services at a mosque, at a church, at a synagogue? Or does it mean it's okay to pray alone and that is keeping it holy? It's not well defined in a way that it would have to be in order to make it a viable law. And then we have the fourth commandment: honor your father and your mother, which does sound like a noble ideal, but should we make that the law? And are there exceptions to a requirement to honor your father and your mother? Growing up, I had a close friend who had two older brothers, and on graduation from high school, all three of them joined the military, and they never went back into that house again. I know there were some beatings. I know that there was some sexual abuse from their father, and they never wanted to go near their father again. They did not go to his funeral. When they came home on leave, they would stay with a friend, and they would call the house until they got their mother and make arrangements to meet their mother for a time when their father was at work in order to catch up, but nothing to do with their father. Should they have been prosecuted for that? Or should we just leave that to be a religious teaching and not have it as part of the civil law? And then we have two, which are only related to thoughts. It is hard to prosecute somebody for their thoughts. The civil law is involved in prosecuting people for their actions. The ninth commandment is you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, and the 10th commandment is you shall not covet your neighbor's goods. Noble concepts, but they are thoughts. Somebody can covet your car and steal the car. Civil law covers somebody stealing the car as well as it's against one of the 10 commandments. But if somebody covets your car and takes no action whatsoever, what is there for the civil law to do? So those relate to thoughts. So we have three, and I'll give you four commandments that have something to do with the civil law, something to do with what happens in a courtroom in the United States. Two are only related to thoughts and nothing else. And four are simply religious teachings that not everybody would agree with. And some people would. But should it be civil law? Most people will not want those remaining 6 commandments to be enforced under the civil law. So the Ten Commandments are 60% moral and religious beliefs and 40% beliefs that coincide with law. So it's mostly not a legal exhibit. It's something that is mostly not a legal exhibit and mostly a religious exhibit of particular religions beyond exhibit in a public courtroom that is there to serve everyone. If you put up the Ten Commandments in a courtroom lobby, then you are kind of signaling to Hindus, agnostics, and atheists that this courtroom is not really about justice for you. It's for justice for certain people, but you're not one of them. That's the implication. We could put up an exhibit of various sources of Western law, as I mentioned in the beginning, and it would be a legal exhibit. It would belong. But I have another thought that should make everybody happy. Put a copy of the United States Constitution in the courtroom lobby. That definitely represents the beliefs of U.S. law. Please leave a comment. I love to hear from you. And here are some other videos on this channel right now that I think you might find interesting. Before you leave, please be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notifications bell so you don't miss out on any of the new videos we'll have coming up. Thank you for joining me today.